Hello, hello, hope you're doing awesome. This is going to be a quick overview of Smart Tempo in Logic. It's pretty powerful, pretty cool, and pretty new, but it can be a little bit confusing. So let me walk you through this and try to get you up and running as fast as possible. So before you do anything, when you open a new project, you're going to need to go to this little center function where it says Keep in Tempo, and select that and go to Smart Tempo Project Settings. And you want to make sure, by default, these are going to be turned off. So what you're going to want to do is turn these to on, align bars and beats for both of these, and make sure trimmed start of new regions is selected as well. This is for recording inside Logic on a new track. This is for when you import, say, an outside loop, and you want it to align to the bar and beat. Okay, so right now the default tempo is set to 120. If you select here, there's three different functions for the Smart Tempo. The first one is Keep. That's what we're going to look at first. Now, what Keep is going to do is, regardless of what tempo or speed I record at, it's going to analyze my recording and align it to the grid and the tempo that's already preset. So naturally, our Logic tempo is already set to 120. It's going to record whatever I do and align it to that grid. Okay, so let me show you. Let's go ahead and record. There we go. All right, so what it did is it analyzed my recording, and it's saying, click Show to open the Smart Tempo editor where you can preview the audio file. So it's basically saying, if you need to shift what Logic already figured out for you, you can open it up. But let's hit Don't Show right now. I'm going to lower this right now, and you can hear how it's perfected my performance. Isn't that cool? And we can speed it up. Or we can slow it down. And if you actually click this little button over here, which is the Flex Edit, you'll notice that it automatically put the track in flex mode and click this to polyphonic. Which means that no matter what we do with the tempo, it's going to keep everything in line, okay? So that's the first way to do it. Now let's say you don't want your tempo to be fixed, but you want Logic to follow its tempo to your performance, meaning rubato, where you can speed up and slow down so it's not locked in, right? Like some drummers don't record to a click. You know, it's the old school way of keeping a human tempo. Well, let me show you how we would do that. So I'm going to delete this track. All right, so we're going to do a new one. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Adapt. Now, Adapt is going to listen to what I do and map the different tempo changes in Logic. One thing to note is you're going to want to keep the metronome off for this, because you want to hear the tempo inside your head. So here we go. Okay, same dialogue. I'm going to hit Don't Show. See what it did? It analyzed all of the transients and mapped Logic's tempo to what I did. So if we play back, it should be in tempo. How cool is that? So this tempo information will stick with this track no matter where you move it, or this clip. How cool is that? You didn't have to tempo map anything. And another thing that you can do is, it automatically made it. Okay, so another thing you can do is, if you want to even this all out to one tempo, you just delete these and it should stay. Or let's bring our tempo back. Again, watch it go to the grid. And again, if we look here, it's made it into a flex tempo track. How cool is that? I mean, that just saved so much time. I can't tell you how much time it's taken me to map out tempos of recordings to then realign it to a grid so it's in tempo. Okay? Automatic mode, I don't believe is very helpful for a live recording, but let me show you what happens when we do it. I'm going to delete this. Okay, we're going to do a new audio, and we're going to do auto mode. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to delete all the tempo information. Here we go. I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so basically auto mode is the same thing as adapt. It did the exact same thing. Awesome. And if we want to delete these, so auto did exactly what adapt did. So really, to keep it simple, if you want to, record in and make whatever you record snap to this tempo, go with keep. If you want the tempo to adapt to your recording, go with adapt, okay? And then when you're done and say you want to stop making your recordings line up to the grid, because say you want to start doing, overdubs to this, right? But you don't want Logic moving your audio around, you're going to need to remember to go back in here to Smart Tempo Project Settings, and you're going to want to turn this off, okay? Okay, so now let me show you the second function, which is you want to play in a MIDI part, not real audio, and you want to use these functions. Well, let's delete this and start from scratch again. So let's say we want to record a piano part, okay? So if we leave this on keep, one thing to note is it is not going to change my MIDI performance to match the current tempo like it did with the audio. It will just leave whatever I play as in normal mode. Let me show you. So okay. So if we look at this, it didn't necessarily quantize my MIDI parts like it did with the audio. So you're going to have to select them, you're going to have to quantize, and okay, and if I play out of time, like if you play out of time with the audio on keep, it automatically lines it up to the grid. But if you do this with MIDI, it doesn't. So if I play something, right? If you look, it's going to be off rhythm. See? Okay, so there is a difference with MIDI. So with MIDI, if you keep it in this keep function, it's just going to act as normal, okay? Now where it changes is when you go to adapt. Now when you go to adapt, this is where it gets fun. All right, so say you go to Logic, you've got an idea in your head, you just want to play it out, and you have the tempo in your head, you don't want to worry about it. Well, make sure that this is turned off, your metronome, so you don't hear it. Make sure adapt is selected, and again, you want to make sure that Smart Tempo, all these settings are set, okay? So I'm going to go in, I'm going to hit record and start playing. Now that was just completely improvised and playing on the MacBook Pro keyboard, but look at what happened. I didn't have to listen to a click, nothing. If we turn the click on, that is amazing. Why is that amazing? Because it just figured out my tempo for me. I could wake up in the middle of the night, go right to Logic, turn on Adapt, and just play in, and I don't have to worry about lining up to a grid. It's just going to figure it out for me. Now, did it quantize everything perfectly? No, it left what I played and left it humanized and adapted what I did via the tempo. Now, if we want to make it even more perfect, we're still going to have to quantize. Okay, so. And say we decide, okay, that was really cool, but we don't want it to be rubato. Rubato means changing meter multiple times. We can delete all these tempo changes, and it will line up to the grid. Okay, how cool is that? Now, Auto does the same thing as Adapt. All right, so if we do this, it's going to do the same thing as Adapt. So here, I'm going to turn this off and show you an example. All right, see, if we turn this back on. I can't tell you how cool of a function that is. Anyway, so to recap, the two main functions that will be useful for you is in audio, you're going to want to create a new audio track. You're going to want to go to keep if you want to match your recording to a fixed tempo, or you're going to go to adapt if you're going to want Logic to adapt its tempo to your recording. And with MIDI, you're going to want to create a new MIDI track, and you're going to want to go to keep if you want to record as normal. You'll still have to quantize what you did. It's not going to line it up to the grid. Adapt, so doesn't really do anything. Adapt or auto will do the same thing for MIDI, where it'll match the tempo to your performance. Now, there's one third function where this can be useful. So I'm going to go, that's when you're importing a track, okay? So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this, and we're going to create a new audio track. Let's say there's a recording that has, multiple time changes or a loop that has multiple changes. If we import it, and we put it on keep, it's going to, in theory, line up all those transients to our tempo. Same as if we were recording. I'm going to make sure that this is all selected. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to import a track here, and it's going to align it to this tempo. Now you're going to want to hit don't import because you want it to align to 120. Okay? So what it did, let's see. I'm going to turn on our click. Now what it did is this track is actually faster than that, but it aligned it perfectly to our 120. Now let's do this again, but let's adapt the project tempo to the track. Okay, So I'm going to put this to adapt, and go from beyond. Boom. It figured out that the tempo of this was 140, and listen, what's going to happen. How cool is that? Now, if this has tempo changes within it, which it doesn't, this will follow and adapt to it. So, and you may have to make some changes. You may have to go in and adjust it, adjust the transients in here. But I mean, it saves you so much time for tempo mapping. This can be helpful if you've got a temp score as well for a film and you need to do some tempo mapping. Getting this to adapt it is great. So to recap, there's 3 main uses for this. The first one is recording audio, like a new track. The second is for recording MIDI data, and the third is for importing a track. Okay, on the first version, if you want to record a guitar part or an instrument and you want it to snap to the internal tempo, you hit keep. If you want Logic to follow your tempo, you hit adapt. The second thing is recording MIDI. So if you keep it on keep, the MIDI you play will be exactly as played to the Logic to the tempo, but it will not be quantized. If you put adapt, Logic will adapt its tempo to your playing and keep it with a realistic feel. Same with auto. You're still going to have to quantize it to get it perfect. The third is importing a track into Logic. If you leave keep on, it's going to analyze the audio track you're importing and align its tempo to Logic's current tempo. If you put it on adapt, it's going to adapt Logic's tempo to the tempo of the track, creating multiple key changes. Hope that was helpful to you. Also, one thing to note, to turn this Smart Tempo, these functions off, you're going to want to go to Smart Tempo project settings and turn these off, okay? And that will be important if you're wanting to record overdubs, like say vocals or things like that, and you don't want Logic to do the tempo mapping for you. Hope that was helpful. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments below. And if it was helpful to you, feel free to like and subscribe. And as always, have a great one wherever you are. All right, take care.